It is awesome to have you join us today. Product School has created this amazing community of people that are building products that people love. Today, I will be talking about how to create artificial intelligence powered products in a startup environment versus at scale. I will be sharing a sneak peek into my story where I've had the opportunity to influence products in different stages of their life journey. So let's get started. I'm Akshay Goel. I'm currently a product manager at Facebook. Prior to Facebook, I had the opportunity to embark on the startup journey both as a founder and as a head of product. At Facebook, I work on AI powered ads. We use machine learning to deliver personalized ads that are helping connect millions of businesses to billions of customers every day while making every impression meaningful. Before Facebook, I co founded Explorer.ai. We were building maps for self driving cars and powering the next generation of safe and autonomous transportation. We worked with several autonomous vehicle teams and also expanded to retail robotics. Through the journey, we got acquired by Standard Cognition, where I joined as head of product and design. At Standard, we were building autonomous checkout for retail stores. Essentially, as a shopper, you could walk in, pick up things, and leave, and you would get your receipt automatically. Before we start thinking about how to create AI powered products, let's start with defining what is AI. So, you can obviously tell the difference between a car and a dog. However, imagine how complex it is to teach a computer to do this. The ability to perform such a human level task is AI. And what is ML? Today, with the right algorithm, we can teach computers to recognize objects within images. The process to teach a computer such a human level task is called ML. Let's also explore some common AI powered products today. I'm breaking them down into four broad categories. Personalized recommendation that includes delivering relevant ads, videos, stories, posts on platforms such as Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and others. Also, delivering personalized recommendations on products on e commerce platforms such as Amazon.com. Next up is products that are creating a magical experience. So, this includes examples such as cashierless checkout or the chauffeurless taxi. Also, we are already using voice assistants, translate, the Zoom virtual background, or Instagram photo filters. A very important category is process optimization. Imagine filtering out of billions of posts to detect and remove misinformation or model threats. AI is being used in misinformation filtering and also in threat modeling for security. AI is also being used to optimize customer service contact centers. A really important category is the ML shovel. What's interesting is today, machine learning is also being used to optimize the creation of both data that is used to create AI in training data preparation by companies such as Scale.ai and in cloud ML platforms that are essentially creating new machine learning models. So, what we have learned so far is people are already using AI powered products, sometimes unknowingly, but every day. Thus, as a PM, your biggest takeaway so far is you will most likely touch artificial intelligence if you already have not. As a PM, you need to ensure that your team is building AI powered products that people want and are shipping desired business impact. So, what does PMing an AI powered product include? You need to understand AI, develop a strong product sense, be really good at execution, and be a strong leader. Understanding AI includes knowing what is AI, what are its possibilities and limitations, and what does the future hold. Product sense, you need to go beyond understanding what people want to also leverage AI for creativity. You need to be very good at defining what success looks like while also understanding how you can gain user trust for AI products. Under execution, you should be able to define the right quantitative outcome. You need to be able to also choose between strong AI and non AI success metrics. Help your team execute better by defining the right trade offs to scale, and also understand what are the advantages and constraints your company has with regards to data. As a strong product leader, you need to be able to inspire productionization of research. This includes taking something that's research into a product that both people want and deliver business impact at scale. You need to also be able to strengthen and grow a multifunction team that spans across research, product, engineering, and others, while influencing creativity across the team to leverage AI and invent the best products out there. So, going a little deeper into understanding AI and its possibilities. A great insight here is that many research breakthroughs can open up new applications. For example, in the field of computer vision, that has grown tremendously in the last 5 to 6 years, we started with the ability to simply recognize your primary object in an image. For example, in the leftmost image, you could detect that there's a dog. Next up came up with the ability to label the object with a tight bounding box. So you could recognize an object amongst other objects in the background. Next came the ability to have a label with pixel level boundaries. Each of these three have already opened up different kind of applications, such as detecting an object has opened up the ability to sort items. Next, labeling a bounding box has allowed us to extract the license plate in a vehicle detection system. Labeling the exact pixel boundary is enabling what you're seeing today as zoom backgrounds. After this, more recently came up the ability to semantically segment the entire image and label the full scene at pixel level. This has started opening up many new applications in understanding what the image contains, useful in applications such as self-driving cars. Ability to label a full 3D scene is something that has opened up only in the last couple of years. This is essentially empowering many new AR VR application and also has opened up further accuracy and safety for self-driving cars. One really exciting update that I saw just recently this month from OpenAI is that they are able to now take a text prompt such as dog in the garden and generate several images that represent a dog in a garden. Mind you, this is not just picking images from Google search. These are artificially generated images that you can use for creative purposes, such as to create advertisement copies. What's important as a PM is to be on top of upcoming research in your domain so that you can inspire creativity in your team. We also need to understand the limitations of machine learning and every research breakthrough. All technologies come with their own limitation. We already know this, that as a product manager, we need to design keeping these limitations in mind. Machine learning also has its own limitations, and over time, these limitations have reduced. The four broad categories that I've most actively come across are accuracy, data, latency, and resources. In accuracy, you need to be sure that your machine learning application is not limited to the few select use cases and can be extendable to the required set of use cases for your product. You need to also think about precision. For example, when you're thinking about autonomously generated receipts, you need to ensure that the receipt is accurate within usability requirements. From a data perspective, you need to understand the requirement, its availability, and extendability. For example, sometimes data is just not available beyond the select use cases you have initially experimented with. In latency, machine learning today is still requiring a lot of compute. There are a lot of research breakthroughs that are coming here. Another area that slows down applications in AI powered products is if the machine learning in play is not accurate enough, you oftentimes require human assistance to increase accuracy. For example, many companies use misinformation filters in tandem with human fact checkers. Next is from a resource perspective. Developing machine learning is still expensive, both on data, people, and infrastructure resource perspective. Also, there's continuous innovation happening on the hardware front, and you need to keep a good eye on the industry timeline for the same. You should also understand what does the future hold. For this, the best advice I can give is read a lot more or read in areas that interest you around AI. A good recommendation for today is the State of AI report produced by Nathan and Ian. Product managers are very good at turning ambiguous problems into products that people want. As an AI product manager, you need to or you want to be able to unlock additional possibilities with the power of AI while creating an experience that will be successful both from a performance perspective and a user trust perspective. What more and different you need to do with regards to execution as a product manager for AI powered products? First off, it's very important to know that machine learning models are trained for given data and a given target. A target is essentially a quantified goal from a business and product perspective. As a PM, you need to design both AI and non AI goals that are usable by machine learning engineers and extendable to future use cases. It is very hard to continuously change your quantified goals as a machine learning engineer. From a data perspective, you need to also think about what are the privacy and integrity considerations for this data. Is this data going to be available beyond prototype? Can this be extendable to users and use cases beyond the prototype use cases? How does data cost increase at scale, or can we reduce constrain it? What is the source of this data? Is there any licensing fee? Is this something we can manage over length of the business? Developing machine learning, like we discussed, is also very resource heavy. As a product manager, you need to be able to understand what resources will be required over the upcoming quarters and halves. Especially, a lot of these resources are heavy on hardware and infrastructure, which require upfront investments, both from an industry and company perspective. So, you need to understand your company's timeline on infrastructure style resources. And what is different in leading AI powered product teams? The core difference here is you're essentially working with a multifunction team that is productionizing what is still in research. You need to be able to inspire such teams to both unlock research breakthroughs and also productionize new applications. While doing this, you need to understand the nuances in the mindset of different functions and people with different backgrounds, especially when you're developing a productionization flow that takes ideas from research to prototypes to a product. You must note that there are different kinds of investments and risks, also timelines across each of these different stages of product development. A very important thing in research is to be able to fund and support longer term risky projects. While as a product manager, you might be super familiar with agile product management. These don't essentially always go hand in hand. And Creating a strong product flow that supports both research and product teams to build new application creatively is super important. So the most important takeaway here is how do you build a unified mindset, common language, and mutual respect and trust across your team. Now that we have explored understanding AI, product sense, execution, and leadership, the four key components of product managing AI powered products, let's see what is the difference between doing this at a startup environment or at scale. So, before we do this, let's first understand what is the most important difference between a startup and scale. I believe it is actually the state of product market fit. So when you're starting off, you're actually just a couple co founders, essentially on a drunken walk, trying to figure out what you want to do next. You're trying to, you have a lot of interesting big ideas, but you have not really identified product market fit. You start experimenting and creating prototypes in your garage. After some time, you may have some initial seed funds and also have built an initial team, maybe added your first engineer. At this point of time, you're taking your prototype and seeing repetitive usage or retained users on your product. You have started to unlock product market fit. Your retained users are inviting or referring additional users, and you're thinking about growing your sales and marketing team. You're also hungry to add additional use cases to your product. At the point when you see that your initial set of users are hooked onto your product and have a feeling of they would be super upset if your product was no longer available to them, then you have started unlocking product market fit. At this stage, you start entering the hypergrowth phase where you start expanding this to a larger subset of product. Your team also grows beyond the pizza size team to hundreds of people. And then at some time, you have multiple products in your ecosystem and you're operating like a large company at scale. So, to summarize, in your initial phase as a startup, you're hungry to drive towards product market fit. And at scale, you're growing your product for additional business and customer impact. As an AI PM or a PM at a startup, you're essentially a driver to product market fit. And at a larger company at scale, such as the FANG companies, you're an AI product portfolio manager. I'll get more into what that is. Essentially, it's like a portfolio manager who is managing many sub product lines or ideas across your team. Now that we know the difference between startups and at scale, and we also understand the four dimensions of AI product manager, let's go into the differences per dimension. So, as an AI product manager, while you're understanding AI, you also need to understand, does ML provide the best solution to the customer problem? You should not use AI just because it's cool. Use it because it's actually the best solution that will create the wow experience. Since you're hungry to unlock product market fit and understand the market truth, it's also important to understand, is this the fastest and the cheapest way to get there? You do not have infinite resources. You need to ensure that AI/ML is actually the fastest way to get there. Whereas at scale, understanding AI as a product manager can be slightly different. First up, you're already probably working on a product that has product market fit. Your job is to grow this, add additional use cases, and maximize business impact. So, one important thing is to understand what are the limitations in the current approach. How does infrastructure cost for it look like? Is there a better AI machine learning solution for what you're solving for? Next up, understanding the problem and thinking about what are the future advancements or upcoming advancements in AI that can potentially unlock even better solutions to the user problem. Even at FANG scale, where they have huge infrastructure support and resources, they are often struggling with supporting resources from a cost and infrastructure perspective for AI. One of the biggest differences in product management at startup versus scale comes in the area of product sense. As a product manager, you're really going after figuring out what people want. You're trying to unlock product market fit. Machine learning is only a solution, and there are sometimes alternative, easier ways to that solution in early days. So, from an AI ML perspective, you need to understand, is AI ML unlocking a 10x better solution than the incumbent and hence unlocking product market fit? You also need to think about, will the AI ML product meet the customer's requirements and desired quality? Why am I emphasizing on desired quality? Is when you think about the limitations of AI ML systems, especially in early days, oftentimes products do not meet the desired quality after their first initial test groups. It's super important when you're thinking about product market fit to ensure that AIML solution is the right solution of choice. Whereas at scale, your product has probably already unlocked product market fit. And what's most important for you is to see how you can use AI or you can use AI better to open up additional use cases. And hence, what are the bets you would make in order to maximize the business impact of the AI ML system? You may also want to think about how can you increase user trust and sentiment in your AI ML solution by working on problems such as AI explainability. Another important area is to always think about what additional use cases you can unlock, especially by creating a 10x better solution with AI ML. From an execution perspective, AI product management also differs vastly between startup and at scale. At a startup, you need to be scrappy. You need to find the fastest method you can take to get to market truth. You need to be also able to define what unlocks market truth. That is, what is the definition of success and what metrics represent that? Whereas at scale, you're oftentimes thinking about what are the limitations in the current definitions of goals and metrics. You're also thinking about them both for AI and non AI business metrics. AI metrics would be those that you're essentially training your models against. You're also thinking about how to allocate resources across short and long term bets, much like a portfolio manager. This includes investments both in research and infrastructure, and both are large investments across long periods of time, sometimes even 3 to 5 years long. Now, let's talk about leadership. So, as to be successful as a product leader at a startup, what I've seen is you need to be able to drive towards a singular vision while have a hunger for market truth. As you're having this hunger for market truth, you're potentially iterating your product and sometimes even your vision over time. Iterating the product can be challenging, especially in a multifunction research and productionization environment. Research is always thinking about longer term bets, but at a startup, you need to see how you can take this research into productionization soon. So, keeping your team inspired as you iterate towards this is super hard. And you need to be able to get that done as a strong leader to be a strong AI product leader at a startup. Whereas in a larger at a larger scale, you need to be able to unite this multifunction team towards a common goal. You also want to foster bottom up creative juices across your organization to be able to identify and unlock the best ideas both in research and in product. You also need to think about How can you inspire and incentivize your team to work on different kinds of projects? Projects with shorter term wins and hence impact, also projects with which are longer term and risky. So we've explored some of the differences between AI product management at a startup versus at scale. However, you already know and cannot expect every product, market, or team to be the same. In fact, this was one of my biggest learnings by working at a startup that brought together people from different companies, markets, and cultures together. We needed to create our own product development culture that could be successful at productionizing research. However, a singular takeaway from this discussion so far is at a startup, as an AI product manager, you are the driver to product market fit. Whereas at scale, you need to be able to be a strong portfolio manager managing multiple bets across AI products. Thank you. Continue making things that people want and stay safe this year. At Facebook, we are hiring product managers across different roles across machine learning. Feel free to check out our careers page or reach out to me on LinkedIn. Cheers.